Thanks for the introduction. To start the topic today, I would like to ask one question. Imagine in your company where you have this setup of an ArcGIS enterprise platform, and suddenly at the night, you will receive a call from your manager about one layer in the map viewer is missing. So, as an administrator in your company, you have to check on the problems. And the question is, without a monitoring tools, how normally you will check? First, maybe because you didn't have remote access to your site, so you need to go back to your office. And then you will connect your laptop to the network to verify the problem using your local machine. So you find out that yes, the layer is missing and the problem is true. Without knowing so much on ArcGIS enterprise architecture, because basically you are an IT guy, you will try to figure out the problem by exploring each of the components, and basically it will consume you time. And as the time passing by, you point the problem to the database team because logically you think it is related to the data. So this is actually a typical situation where your infrastructure and services being managed by your IT team. But actually they didn't quite understand how the architecture, how the ArcGIS platform works. So normally it will lead to time-consuming process. And in this example, actually the problem is because of the missing layer due to the problem in the ArcGIS services. And the administrator have failed to identify the root cause of the problem. And next, according to Gartner, an average cost of IT downtime is actually quite high. And imagine, as a manager of an organization, how can you plan to minimize the downtime when it is happening? So maybe your answer is you need end-to-end monitoring tools to monitor your infrastructure and your database. But how about the ArcGIS software? How can the standard IT monitoring tools can help you to monitor the status of your ArcGIS components? So that's why Esri introduced the ArcGIS Monitor. Before the ArcGIS Monitor, Enterprise GIS didn't have any effective tools to monitor their platform. And always, the responsibility of monitoring is the job of IT department. But the problem is the IT department monitoring tools will only focus on the infrastructure only. So there will be no visibility on the ArcGIS components. In case the ArcGIS server is having problem or downtime, the tool will struggle to point you the root cause of the problem. And in order for you to identify it is by hiring someone who's familiar with the ArcGIS architecture, as an example, the Esri technical support itself, to solve your problem. So the other reason why you will need an ArcGIS monitor is because the growing complexity of the ArcGIS platform itself. In some deployment scenarios, this complexity is unavoidable. It refers to the requirement of the organization itself, such as to have the multi-tier architecture in their network, in their application, and also in their security. An example of the complex platform itself, as you can see here, the main component of ArcGIS Enterprise consists of portal for ArcGIS, the GIS server, and the data store. And don't forget about the web adapter also. And from the user side, they will have a license manager to manage their ArcGIS Pro license. And if they want to grow, they can be the federated GIS server that will be connected to the RDBMS server. And if they use the geo event services, there will be also a special temporal data store attached to it. So just imagine for your organization who have multiple sites or multiple data centers to monitor, to provide the services to your user. So you will have the same setup on each different locations. So that's why we introduced the ArcGIS Monitor, where it can monitor all the different sites and all of the components of the ArcGIS without compromising on the other parts like the DBMS and the infrastructure. So after we know why we introduced the ArcGIS Monitor, I want to explain about the key features of the ArcGIS Monitor itself. Basically, the ArcGIS Monitor can enable us to monitor enterprise components of our ArcGIS deployment and their underlying infrastructure. And secondly, it can gather information and low-level data that will be collected and will be summarized to form a meaningful and actionable information. So those meaningful and actionable information will indicate the health status, the performance status, and also the usage status. And those indications measured by series of information that being collected from the software level, that is ArcGIS service level, or the map services level within the ArcGIS itself, and from the hardware level of your ArcGIS component. So it will simplify all those information and automatically analyze all the information and present to you the health, performance, and usage reports for you. And the other thing about the ArcGIS Monitor, we have set a target user for it. And I want you to know basically who is the target users and what are the reasons for them to use the ArcGIS Monitor itself. First target user is the administrator. I believe we have a lot of administrators with me today, right? So as administrator, your daily task will be to keep your system in a good condition. So ArcGIS Monitor provide you an alert so you will be able to keep informed when something happened to your system. And without alerts, I believe administrator will have to remotely access each component in your system to provide or acquire the log and reports for your manager. Then when problem happen to your system, it is the administrator that will look into digging the root cause of the problems. And the second target user is the managers. Basically, managers always want to look for the overall system from the higher level perspective. So they want a reports that is simplified the status and represent the overall availability of their system. And so with ArcGIS Monitor, the managers can produce their performance and usage report monthly automatically. So before I proceed with the demonstration, I would like to explain to you the scenario. So in a normal situation, how we monitor our ArcGIS environment. We cannot monitor our environment by waiting for user complaints, because in a normal support projects, we will have the service level agreement or the SLA. So an example for an SLA, like we need to resolve a problem within 4 hours. So practically the most effective way of monitoring and analyzing our system is by configuring an alerts. Alerts in ArcGIS Monitor will notify the administrator on the incident that currently active, and then he will escalate the problem to the responsible team. I would like to share with you one incident that I have captured a few days ago. So that night around 10 p.m., I have received an email address from my monitor saying that I have critical alerts to be checked. Based on the email notification, I have quickly logged into ArcGIS Monitor and opened the alert page. From there, I can see that there are problem that there are two alerts that showing I have problem with my ArcGIS web adapter and my ArcGIS data store. So by using ArcGIS Monitor, I have managed to close the alerts and successfully find the root cause of the problem and solve it within 15 minutes. So let me bring you to how I solved the problem. So basically, this is the ArcGIS Monitor login. After I log into the ArcGIS Monitor, I can see an high-level overview of my dashboard. The dashboard basically provides me a summary of alerts that I have in my system. It shows how many alerts that are being opened, and also show me the high-level overview of my ArcGIS components, such as how many servers that I have, how many portals that I have, and how many data store that I have. And for other parts, so it provides the infrastructure, the database, web, license manager, and the monitor overview. So we will go straight to the scenario where I told you earlier. In this scenario, as you can see here, I use the alerts page, and I scroll down to the problem when it is happening. So as you can see here, the problem is happening during this time frame. And as you can see, it's actually closed because I already resolved it. And normally what I do when I'm diagnosing the alerts is I will only want to focus to the critical alerts only. So I disable the warning and info level of alerts so I can see the critical alerts that occurred in my system only. By doing that, I can focus to the critical problem that causing downtime to my services. And as I can see here, there is two critical alerts that triggering from my ArcGIS data store and from my ArcGIS portal. And sometimes when I need more information, I will enable back the warning and info level of alerts so I can see the related alerts that are happening at the same time with the critical alerts. So basically, this process will take some time and some clicks or so. But it provides you the information that you need without you remote to each component manually. But what if I say that the ArcGIS Monitor provides us with tools that can basically straight away point me to the problem, to the root cause of the problems? The tools, we call it as the RCA tools, or the root cause analysis reports. So after I open the root cause analysis report, it directly shows me the source of the problem, which is the ArcGIS data store that having the service is stopped. So by having this information, I can narrow down the problem and straight away troubleshoot the problem. And with the help of the tools, I managed to close the alerts within 15 minutes. So as a summary of the alerts, basically, it will provide the administrator with the quick information and the indication which is your problem is happening. So next, for the next demo, I would like to explain on the ArcGIS, the ArcSoc Optimizer. It is a tool in the ArcGIS Monitor that can help you to optimize your process. And before that, did you know when a request is made to a service in your ArcGIS server side, such as to pan or to a map or navigate to an address, it is basically handled by an instance of the service running on your server. These services we call as ArcSoc processes. And as you can see on the animation here, each ArcSoc process was the main process that handling requests from the client apps. And each process in our server will basically take a certain amount of memory to run. And if you look from our server Windows Task Manager, you can see the arcsoc.exe process that populate your Task Manager. And for each service published to your ArcGIS server side, basically you can specify a minimum number of dedicated instances running and a maximum number of instances that you can run for the services. For example, if you set this parameter to 3 instances, there will always be 3 minimum instances that will be running on your server, even though there is no user access to your services. So it is important for administrator to control the ArcSoc process minimum and maximum. So this is what happens if we fail to manage it. The memory will fully utilize and it will cause application degradation of performance. So how ArcSoc Optimizer can help you to optimize the minimum and maximum instances? As you can see here, I have set up the ArcSoc Optimizer at my side. And when you open the ArcSoc Optimizer, basically you can see there are 2 types of ArcSoc Optimizer tasks. The first task, we call it as a 30-day task, while the second task, we call it as a 1-day task. The 30-day task will monitor your usage for 30 days before it will automatically increase or decrease your instances based on your usage, while the 1-day instances will monitor your usage for 1 day before it increase your instances automatically. And this is the report of the ArcSoc Optimizer. As you can see, the yellow column shows the all configuration for my instances, while the green column shows the new instance for my services. And you can see here my instances is automatically increases based on the usage here. And for my other services that is not utilized, the optimizer will automatically tune it to 0 minimum and 2 maximum instances. So by have this ArcSoc Optimizer, my server is now my services will only allocate the required memory to the service that require it. So before I end the session today, I would like to share with you the resources link for ArcGIS Monitor. The first link is the ArcGIS Monitor documentation, where you can access the documentation on the requirements prior to install the ArcGIS Monitor. And also the documentation on each function that we have in the ArcGIS Monitor itself. The second one is the ArcGIS Monitor Gallery, where it provides you with the video tutorials how to use for you to set up the ArcGIS Monitor. And the third one is a GeoNet community links, where you can access the web page and ask the community about any question about the ArcGIS Monitor. So that's the end of my presentation today, and I want to open up for the Q&A session.